Hi, what I want to do now is just to give you a very simple example of accounting for property, plant and equipment using the cost method, and to demonstrate how this would be implemented with impairment and a reversal of an impairment. I want to set up the context by having the initial acquisition of a piece of equipment and the recognition of depreciation. So what we have here is a situation where Plummet Airways bought some equipment for $250,000. It was expected to have a useful life of 5 years and a residual of $50,000, and depreciation is on a straight line basis. So to recognise the equipment in the first instance, we'd recognise a payment of $250,000 in the recognition of an asset, and in the first year we'd recognise a depreciation charge. The depreciable amount is $200,000 and the depreciation period is 5 years, so on a straight line basis that's $40,000 a year. So that would be the depreciation when recognised in the first year, 2016, and 2017 as well. Now, at the end of 2017 financial year, what we can see there is the equipment has a recoverable amount of only $150,000, its useful life and residual value unchanged. Now what we can see is from the table is that the equipment has a book value of $170,000, which is greater than the recoverable amount, so that says we need to have an asset impairment. So we'd simply recognise an asset impairment, debit impairment expense, and credit accumulated impairment by $20,000. That's pretty straightforward. Now, a feature of asset impairments is that they can be reversed if circumstances change. Now, in this particular case, we have a reversal, and a year later, the equipment is deemed to have a recoverable amount of $135,000. Its useful life and residual value unchanged. Now, what we can see here is that from the first tile is that the equipment now has a book value of $116,667, and we can see that that is less than the recoverable amount, so it does set up the potential of having a reversal. However, the amount that you can reverse of an impairment is subject to a constraint, and this dictates that you have to work out what the book value of the asset would have been if there had not been an asset impairment. Now, in this particular case, we can see that if there hadn't been an asset impairment, the asset would have been depreciated by another $40,000 into the 2018 year, and that would have given a book value of $130,000. Now, what this means is that the maximum that you can reverse the impairment to is up to $130,000, not $135,000. So in this particular case, what we'd see is that we'd recognise an asset impairment reversal, so we'd recognise a negative expense, so accredit the impairment expense of $13,333, and we'd recognise a reduction in the accumulated impairment of $13,333. Thank you.